Hello there, villagers, and welcome back to another video here in Stacy's Random POV. And I don't know if you guys heard the news. Seems like Mr. Terry Moran have been suspended from his position in the ABC News Network. And why is that? Seems like over the late night in his personal social media, he invoked his rights, his freedom of speech rights, and provided his opinions on what was happening in the White House with Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. And it seems like a lot of people in the Trump administration were not happy about this matter. If you don't know who Terry Moran is, here is a snippet of the interview he did earlier this year with President Trump. And we'll be back.
We still have 145% tariffs on China. Your Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes, so 145% tariffs on China, and that's good. Basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. The Declaration of Independence.
What does it mean to you?
Well, it means exactly what it says. It's a declaration. It's a declaration of unity and love and respect, and it means a lot, and it's something very special to our country.
Not now.
Now, Canada.
As you guys can see, Mr. Terry Moran has always been the type of person who keeps his foot on someone's neck, especially when he hears BS. And I just wanted to put in my 2 cents here before I showed you guys what other people had to say, because trust me, a lot of people are upset with ABC, the network, for letting go Mr. Terry Moran, and rightfully so, in my opinion. Now, this gentleman getting suspended while he was off the clock for posting something in his personal account is preposterous, to say the least. And this is just one way for us to know and to understand that we are no longer living in a democracy. This has turned into a state of fear-mongering. And of course, our Constitution no longer matters. We are dealing with a presidency that is planning on changing our reality, our laws, and our day-to-day as we know it. This is no longer playtime. This is no longer about making money for this country. This is a dictatorship. Straight up, straightforward. This is a dictatorship. We are living under Hitler's regime, and it's just not getting any better. Not for a long shot. And so I hope you guys appreciate this video. I'm going to show you now what people have to say, other creators and other reporters have to say about this matter, because like I mentioned, a lot of people are not happy about this. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in my next video.
Breaking. ABC News just suspended one of their top reporters for this post about Trump's deputy chief of staff. Terry Moran, ABC's senior national correspondent, called Stephen Miller a world-class hater in a late-night Twitter post. The post said Miller is richly endowed with a capacity for hatred and eats his hate. ABC acted fast, suspending Moran for violating their objectivity standards. This is the same reporter who had that tense interview with Trump back in April, where Trump said he'd never heard of him. The White House called Moran's comments unhinged and unacceptable, and even VP J.D. Vance weighed in, defending Miller. What do you think? Was this suspension justified? Drop your thoughts below and follow Quiet Scope for...
Wow, so Dumpy got even with Terry Moran for not doing a softball interview of him, because that's who they suspended. It's Terry Moran. Pearl Clutch.
Y'all, so I don't know if y'all heard, they suspended my messy girlfriend. Terry Moran got suspended over a tweet. Now, Terry, on his own personal Twitter at midnight, so I'm possibly assuming there may have been a glass of wine involved here, went to post this, and he said, the thing about the chair, is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about the chair. It's not brains, it's bile. The chair is a man who richly endowed with the capacity of hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatred are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Taco is a world-class hater, but his hatred only a means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. Now, from one messy queen to another, because don't get me wrong, I am messy. And Terry's messy, but this should not cause him to get suspended from work. Valak, the press demon, called ABC and was like, oh my God, I can't believe you let him say that about the chair. Aren't you guys upset that Elon Musk stole his wife anyways? And this is wild. This is wild. This is wild. Y'all are telling people, reporters, that they can't be unbiased because on their own personal time they have their own personal opinion.
Terry Moran called Stephen Miller a world-class hater. And the White House was so butthurt that they had to call ABC directly to get disciplinary actions against Terry Moran. And they suspended him.
Some breaking news here. The attack on the free press continues after ABC News senior correspondent Terry Moran posted a tweet on his social media account on X, critical of the Trump administration, critical of Stephen Miller. ABC News, after the White House reached out to them, has decided to suspend, pending further evaluation, Terry Moran from the network. Again, this is the mainstream media capitulating, and it's why a lot of people are tuning out of the mainstream press, no longer trusting it and no longer watching it, and it's why their ratings continue to fall as more people turn to independent journalism as their source for information, as their source to trust, as their source for credible reports on staying up to date in all the news that they need to know about in the world. We've been seeing the mainstream media capitulate not just in this moment of the Trump administration, but also during the presidential election and in the last Trump administration as well. They are continuing to cower and to capitulate to this president. Independent journalists are not doing that. I'm Jeremiah Patterson. I'm an independent journalist. If you're interested in following me, check me out on Blue Sky and Substack at TJPS News, as well as YouTube at The Jeremiah Patterson Show. I will continue to report the news without fear, favor, or corporate interference. Independent journalism is grassroots. It is grassroots organized. It is grassroots supported. So thank you all so much for supporting me and for funding this work. It is necessary. Let's keep our independent journalists alive, because mainstream media is continuing to fall and to cower to this administration.
The American people demand that Terry Moran be reinstated at ABC News, or we tank your news network into oblivion. It's called a boycott, and it works.
Hey players, so according to reporting, ABC has decided to suspend journalist Terry Moran because of a tweet that he made. Now, Caroline Lipless had this to say about the tweet and what ABC should do about it before it was announced that he was suspended.
For is truth and transparency. That's
of course. And you said ABC is going to take action. What do you expect that action to be?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, hopefully this journalist will either be suspended or terminated. You cannot go on these unhinged rants against administration officials and the President of the United States. And then clearly he knew he was wrong, because he deleted the post as soon as he allegedly woke up this morning.
Now let's take a look at the tweet. Great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles after 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest. We have an incompetent governor, Newscomb, and Mayor... Oh, I'm sorry. This is an actual Devil is a Lie social post by the President of the United States calling the governor of California Newscomb. And also, he's lying in this post. Now, let's go look at what Terry Moran had to say. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he's the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and to an end to his own glorification. I don't see any lies. I don't see any calls for taking somebody out the game. I don't see anything like that. What I see is a lot of truths. Stephen Miller is filled with hatred. Frumpy Dump is a world-class hater. He has showed that many times when he talks about America as being an absolute shithole. So what did he lie about? And why would he be held accountable for this by ABC as if this man does not have the right to free speech? So according to reporting, he's been suspended pending an investigation. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This is why legacy media is pretty much on its last leg because of situations like this. But players, I want to know what you all think. I mean, it appears to me that Frumpy Dump said more vile things about Governor Gavin Newsom in his tweet versus what Terry Moran had to say about Stephen Miller and Frumpy Dump. I mean, let's keep it a stack. Frumpy Dump is a world-class hater. Players, put your thoughts in the comments. This is Double D Mo for The Black.
So Terry Moran gets suspended. Damn. Who's Terry Moran? You might think he's like a sports figure, coach or player, but he's not. He's a journalist with ABC News, and he had some strong words to say about Stephen Miller. What did he say? Let's see if I can make this short. He says the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he's the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he's one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy, but that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller's a man who's richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Damn, pretty strong words. White House fired back. Caroline Leavitt said, last night, in a since-deleted post, so-called journalist Terry Moran went on a rampage against Stephen Miller and called President Trump a world-class hater. This is unhinged and unacceptable. We have reached out to ABC to inquire about how they plan to hold Terry accountable. The fact that the government reached out to ABC News to find out how he would be held accountable is troubling. What they did is they suspended him. You know, I can only imagine how that would have played out if, in fact, I remember when Barack Obama was president, they said that he was one of the most hateful men on the planet, that he was responsible for all the division in America. And some of those same people that said that on Fox News have never been suspended and are still on television. People have a right to feel what they feel. Terry Moran has the right to believe that Stephen Miller is hateful. At the same time, ABC News has a right to kind of monitor his activity, because when he opens his mouth, he represents them. So they felt that they had to suspend him. I mean, it's the same news channel that suspended, that actually paid a settlement for things that George Stephanopoulos said. So you kind of get how they would bend the knee, right? The problem here is it's an issue of free speech. Terry Moran, as an American citizen, has the right to believe that Stephen Miller is hateful. Does it make him right? Not necessarily. Because there are a lot of people out there that believe Stephen Miller is doing America's work. That he, especially when it comes to things like immigration, he's keeping America safe, he's making America better, he's bringing America back to its glory. Doesn't make them right either, but they have a right to feel that way. Now, you might wonder where I stand on this, right? Let me tell you how I feel. I would say, if I had to characterize Stephen Miller, he's a man who's richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Yeah, I would use Terry Moran's words. That's what I see when I see Stephen Miller and when I hear him talk. Does it make me right? Not necessarily, but that's my opinion. He strikes me as the type of person that when he was a kid, he got taken for his lunch money every damn day. He never forgot it, and he's making the world pay. That's just my opinion. I have a right to say it. Am I going to get suspended? Well, the only one that can suspend me, because I'm a private citizen, is my wife, and she does that on the daily, every day, so it doesn't really matter. But the point is, every citizen has a right to feel the way they feel and to say how they feel. That's part of our constitutional rights in the Bill of Rights. So if I think he's hateful, I have the right to say it. If somebody else thinks he's great for the country, they have a right to say that too. That's just what makes America great. So where do I stand on this? I agree with Terry Moran. Every time I watch Stephen Miller, I find him to be a hateful human being. You can speak policy. You can execute policy. You just don't have to do it in a hateful way. And in my opinion, Stephen Miller does do it in a hateful way. Doesn't make me right. It's just where I stand.